Hello YouTube. A few people have had this problem already. Saitek Rudder Pedals, once they get old enough, they start breaking. So I heard a clunk on the right pedal, and then this is what I found inside. This little plastic piece actually broke off from here. I don't know if you can see well, right there. And left me with this spring. So it's right here in this part. So I started taking it apart, lots of screws in there. So at the bottom you'll find a lot of Phillips head 2 screws, and you will have to remove 4 caps, which are rubber caps like this, near the center, and you will get access to those screws. Once you've done that, you want to try and remove your rudder pedals, which is like this. Push, get them up, all the way up. This, you're gonna find 6 screws, take them off, and now you have access to the innards of your rudder pedals. What you're gonna need to fix it, this is an alternative way I found. If you do have a good 3D printer, you could try and reprint that little plastic part, but I thought it was not the best idea. So as you can see, you have these little bushings which hold your rudder pedal axis together, and this is what the spring does. So what I'm trying to do is I'm gonna have to replace this with something else, and I don't know if you can see clearly, but there's a piece of plastic underneath here which we can use to actually fix something on. So I removed these, unscrewed those, and now I can take this apart, which leaves me with the post that we're gonna have to drill through. So given those dimensions, I found that the best screw we could use was a Phillips, a number 832. So I went to the hardware store and looked for some eyebolts and lock nuts. I couldn't find the eyebolts in the size I wanted, so I went for this gizmo, which is basically to pull 2 pieces of cable together. One is right hand side, the other is left hand side, so I took the proper threaded one, and I will need a drill bit. If you look at the mechanical handbook, you will see that for a 832 eye bolt or bolt, you will need number 18 or 1164 drill bit. I just found that 532 works better for this particular eye bolt, so that's for me. And then I'm going to just simply drill through and fix my eye bolt. For the drilling, since I don't want it to move, I'm going to use one of these and actually just get myself in there, and you can actually make a little guiding hole so that your bit doesn't slip. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill this, and I'll get back to you. Alright, now let's try up the bolt. The bolt actually sits very well with a 532. However, as you can see, it's gonna be a little long. So what I'm gonna do is trim that bolt up and make sure it's not too long and not interfering with these little cables and the other plastic parts that can be in there. So I'm gonna cut those bolts to length now, and I'll probably keep about half the length. Okay, so I got those cut to shape. Use the angle grinder if you have a metal saw, that should work. If you don't have neither of those, borrow from a friend, but I really recommend you get at least one of those too. I'm now gonna screw it in the eye hole that I just made with the drill, and then we're gonna assemble it and see if there's any interference with that little plastic part there that we originally had broken off. There's a lid, as you can see. As you can see here, there's a lid there that could make a problem with us, and we're gonna have to trim some of that if we have interference, which would not change any functionality. So I'm just gonna go and assemble this and check that. There we go. Okay, this part here is what's giving us a little trouble. as it is contacting the eye bolt, and we have a little gap right here. So I'm gonna have to trim this part here, right where my thumb is, and I'm gonna have to make it so that it doesn't interfere anymore. All right, here we focus again. Now the other part that is interfering a bit is if I insert this, once it's at the pivot, it has a tendency to hit the bottom here with this eye bolt. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and, there's two ways to go about this. I can try and bend the eye bolt, and then I don't have a problem with interference. I could try to make my hole a bit higher, which would probably work. However, if you look at this part right here, we got the hole about the same height, which means it's going to catch our spring pretty much the same height. Now about the spring, it doesn't have to come to a right angle, it can be like this, so it wouldn't be too much of a problem. So what I'm going to try and do is get that eye bolt bent a bit. So I've just bent the eye bolt. I think that's going to work. What I use is simply put it in the vise like this, and then use the piece of wood on this side, and then just hammer it on the piece of wood so it would kind of bend the shape without damaging the threads, and it did pretty good. I think the angle is right. We're going to try it out. Alright, here we go. So you can see there's a nice gap, and now I just have to trim that black piece of plastic. As you can see, I just removed just the angle here, then sent it back. I used a file like this one. Worked pretty good, really easy to do, and shouldn't do any cracks in plastic or anything weak. And as you can see, there's a lot of material left, and I got rid of the total interference on that one. So now it's just a matter of reassembling. What I'm gonna have to be super careful about is make sure that the teeth are at the same position. So once I reassemble, I'm going to make sure that this teeth is just outside of that one at the resting position. And now I'm going to go to the reassembly and show you what it looked like with all the parts together. One more thing before I reassemble, I used a little bit of electrical tape to put on the inside, because I do not know if the Hall effect sensor cables will actually make a problem with that. So just to avoid any risk, I layered everything and insulated everything so it doesn't touch the metal. And there we have it. I just reassembled everything there. These cables I'm going to titty up with a bit of tape, just like it was on the other side. And this spring right now is slightly less stretched than the other one. However, when I just use my hand like this, I cannot really feel the difference. So I would say this is a good fix, and I'm probably going to keep that until this one breaks and just keep the spare parts, because it took a while to do one. But if you really want symmetry and not having to reopen it again, I would recommend taking the one that's not broke, removing that piece yourself, and just making the same modification to the other pedal. And that way you have two pedals that are exactly the same. So there you go, that's how you fix the Saitek Rudder Pedals. I'm going to reassemble everything, just check it on the computer. And hopefully that cost me about $5. And I probably saved a new set of rudder pedals by doing that. So I hope that helped you guys. Have a good one. As you might be able to see here, right there, it's really hard to see, but you see a little white line in the corner right there. As I pry it apart, you see that this is actually a crack and is about to propagate. So I will change that one as well in terms of preemptive measures.